So this video is a review of behavior change theories for nutrition communications and counseling. Remember that you can speed this up, you can slow it down, you can pause, you can stop it and take a break, and come back later. Do what you need to do so that you get the most out of this. I will warn you that I am struggling a little bit with a cough, so I hope that that doesn't become an issue or become too distracting. So why do we need to know about behavior theories? Well, because knowledge isn't highly correlated with behavior. So just educating is not going to necessarily lead to behavior change. Okay. There are a lot of factors that influence eating behaviors. Um, they're biological factors, but there's also economic factors, environmental factors, knowledge, social factors, habit, lots of different things that affect behavior. It's not just knowledge. So you can't be one of those dietitians who gets upset at people because they you provided their diet instruction and they didn't follow the instructions. You need to support them in actually changing their behaviors. So think about some type of habit or behavior that you've changed, and maybe one that you've been wanting to change or intending to change, but have struggled in changing. So maybe some things that you've changed have been really easy, some have been more difficult. So change, can be more challenging in some areas than others. So we're going to talk about a lot of these theories of behavior change. The first one is self-determination that contends that there's three basic human needs: autonomy, that is, I'm in charge; belonging, I'm a part of something, people care about me, and I care about others, I'm a part of this; and then competence. Um, I have the I have abilities. I'm good at things. And I'm capable of getting better. So people make changes when these three areas, these three needs, are addressed and supported. So according to this theory, goals for things that are superficial, like achieving my beach body for this summer, um, aren't necessarily successful because those goals don't address those three basic or real human needs. So another theory is the two minds theory. You have a subconscious system, or you operate at two levels, subconscious and conscious. Subconscious or the intuitive system, they work really fast. They're kind of those automatic behaviors, like when my steering wheel is automatically turned into the parking lot of Einstein Bagel. Okay. Uh, Not even really thinking too much about that. Or when there's a bag right next to you while you're watching TV and you keep reaching into it, not even aware. The narrative system is more the thinking system. It's at the conscious level. It's more deliberate, uh, because it's thinking based. So interventions should target both systems because both are operating, to identify those subconscious automatic behaviors so that you know to take a pause, or redirect. For example, when I went through that period where I was always going into Einstein Bagel, on my way to work, I started taking the light rail to work because the light rail would not stop for me to walk all the way down to Einstein Bagel and back to the light rail. So anyway, and then set up things so that the healthy choice is the easier choice to make with the narrative mind operating. Okay. Um, and this shouldn't be module. I don't know why I keep forgetting to correct this, but I'm not going to start over yet again. So the health belief model. Um, so there are these things that people that will influence a person's readiness to act or their action, their willingness to act sometimes. So we'll start with cue to action. Okay, there's something that triggers the change. It could be cues in action. Um, you can set up these cues, like having tennis shoes in your car, so that you'll be more likely to act on exercising or going to the gym after work or going to the park after work for a walk. Perceived severity and susceptibility. So do you think the consequences of your disease are severe? I just have a touch of sugar. It's, I only have the mild type of diabetes, that's probably not going to spur someone to action as if they thought that there were going to be consequences of their condition. Um, the perceived susceptibility to health problems, you know. Uh, you know, um, I don't think there are going to be consequences. I mean, I know people who eat, a lot of bacon every single morning and, they live to, 95. Um, perceived susceptibility, perceived benefits. Is my health really gonna get better if I make this change? If I don't think so, then I'm less likely to take an action. Perceived barriers. If you think the barriers to change are insurmountable, then you're less likely to act. Um, and then self-efficacy was added to this model several decades after it was first developed. And that self-efficacy, that is the confidence or the self-belief that you can act or make a change. So again, module instead of model. I'm sorry about that. I may or may not correct that for next time I teach this. So here's an example. Some people don't know, believe that their disease or habits will hurt them. In this case, what you can do is increase the awareness of the consequences of their habits or disease. Um, it could be on an individual level or a health campaign population level. Some people don't know or believe that that nutrition or other health behaviors will benefit them. I think of a student in San Antonio who told me that in her community, a border town, the prevalence of diabetes was astronomical. So everyone just assumed it was inevitable that they would get it. It wasn't really in their awareness that it could be prevented. So in those cases, you know, um, you can educate people or let them know about the perceived benefits of change. Okay. And then, I'm talking a bit about the social cognitive theory. This is where you can kind of combine some of these theories and, um, uh, give a positive example or tell a story of a person who did make a health uh, behavior change and um, they didn't develop diabetes or they didn't develop the complications. Um, as far as addressing the self-efficacy, some people create these goals that are not really attainable. Um, if you think back to that debacle, The Biggest Loser, everyone wanted to lose double digits every week. So if someone has that in mind, I'm going to lose, 10 pounds next week, or I'm going to lose 20 pounds this month. Is that a realistic goal? Is it something, there's things that are not in under their control, first of all, when it comes to that goal. So, help them set realistic behavioral goals that are achievable because success begets success. Once they see that they can be successful, their confidence will increase, their self-efficacy will increase. Um, and then set up reminders to perform behaviors that addresses those cues to action, like the tennis shoes in the car. Okay, here's a campaign based on the health belief model. This was an actual campaign in New York City trying to reduce sugary beverage intake. Your kids could be drinking themselves sick. So they were talking about they're addressing the perceived susceptibility and the perceived severity here. So the social cognitive theory um, talks about the fact that behaviors occur in a social context, and the dynamics of behaviors involve interactions among people and the environment. So, in this theory, they focus on the social influences of behavior. So, the social environmental factors include friends, family, food, environment, the media. Cognitive factors include knowledge, values, intentions, priorities, perceptions. And then behavior change comes from helping the client recognize and change the interplay among the social, environmental, and mindset factors. So part of behavior change can be directly related to observing others or modeling. In fact, you can be one of those models. In my training in eating disorders, they talked about having a session with a client where you brought in a snack and you ate it together. Okay. And it wasn't carrot sticks and celery. It may have been cookies. Okay. Um, Sometimes they actually did an exercise where they went out to eat with the client and modeled a healthy attitude towards, including foods that may not be traditionally healthy in the meal. Okay. So modeling a positive attitude towards food. Um, so the treatment emphasizes increasing the patient's confidence for productively responding or modifying his or her social and physical environment. Okay. I know a lot of people who have a really unhealthy food environment at the home. Okay. And one time I remember someone who was speaking to one of my classes a long time ago. I think she was a WIC dietitian, and somebody that she was working with was saying, "Oh my God, I can't get my 5-year-old to stop eating marshmallows." And she said, "Where is your child getting the marshmallows?" Well, she was buying them and bringing them home. So it was the food environment that needed a change. So, some people, when you can work with them on developing a healthy food environment, that can really make a big impact. Um, Geez, the social environment, I mean, the people you surround yourself with do have an influence for better or for worse on your eating behaviors. So you may need to modify some of these things. Okay. For example, I know people, including myself, who do not go to buffets. And so that meant that I don't go out to eat with my friends who like to go to buffets anymore. But that buffet environment does not serve me well. Let's see, I'm sure you can think of many other examples. Let's see. So there are different types of social support that can be provided. And you don't always work just with the client. Sometimes the client's spouse comes in, or sometimes, you're working with a child and their parents. Okay. But anyway, an example of instrumental support, giving a non-driver a ride to an exercise class, or providing cooking equipment, like gifting somebody a crock pot who wants to do more home prep. Could be informational, telling someone about a walking program, or providing someone with some recipes that you like that are quick and easy. Emotional, checking in to see how they're doing with their food prep, or their home cooking, or their walking program. Offering to cook with them. Okay. Appraising, providing feedback and reinforcement for, the new skill that they're developing. Okay. So you can help the people who are supporting your clients in making behavioral changes and supporting them in these different areas. Now, is social support always helpful? No, not everyone has access to positive social support, and some exist in an unsupportive environment. So, what can you do? Well, promote self-efficacy. That is, I have the ability to do this regardless of some of these circumstances I'm in. I can problem solve my way through this situation. Help them figure out how to cope with these situations. And sometimes it needs to be removing themselves. Have them examine their thoughts, feelings related to these situations they're in, and actions that they can take in response. And then oftentimes they do need to be referred to a therapist because it can become way beyond a dietitian's scope of practice to deal with a very unsupportive social environment or family environment. Okay, this is one of my favorites. The trans-theoretical model, the stages of change, and this addresses getting somebody to that place where they're ready to make a change. Okay. So there are stages of change, and I'm going to go to the next slide. Um, there's the pre-contemplation stage. That's when the person isn't even thinking of making a change. Okay. They may not even know they need to make a change. They may be in denial of the need to make a change. Um, I remember, um, well, I've had patients at the diabetes center say, "Oh yeah, my doctor diagnosed me with diabetes because my A1C is over 10." Um, And the diagnostic criteria for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is over an A1C of 7. Um, so they're not just early in type 2 diabetes. But anyway, they'll be say, "Oh, I don't really have diabetes. I just need to cut out sodas." So they're in denial. They're not even thinking well, they're actually thinking of making a change, but they're in denial that they have diabetes and need to do more than that to manage their disease. So pre-contemplation, and that could be in a situation I'm not even thinking about it because it's not realistic at all for me to be making a change right now, the way my life is going. Hopefully they'll move to the contemplation. Okay, I really do need to make a change, and I'm really thinking about what I I could need to be doing. And the next stage, instead of determination, it's usually called preparation instead of determination. Preparation, they're starting to do some things that will set them up for success. So, they realize it, they've thought about making a change, and now they are preparing for making that change. When I was, well, when I was seriously working on my goal of giving up diet soda, I bought an iced tea maker, okay, that would make infused iced tea. So that was my preparation to switch from regular or from diet soda to iced tea. And I did buy the iced tea maker and I did start making iced tea and was on my way. And then I hit a relapse, major relapse that occurred with the pandemic. And I'm like, well, if I can't get through this pandemic without my Diet Coke. And so I have not gotten back, I've gotten back to the contemplation. I haven't gotten back to the action stage again. Maintenance is where you're entrenched. Now, relapse is a normal part of the change process, actually. And people need to realize that. A lot of people think, I've blown it. So yeah, I'm a failure. And then they stop trying. But you look at relapse as a learning opportunity. And if you can help someone change their frame of mind around a relapse to think of it as a learning opportunity instead, isn't this interesting? This happened, I kind of was derailed by this. What did I learn? How can this serve me in the future to help prevent a future relapse? Maintenance is when the new action or new habit is just automatic. They don't really even need to think about it anymore. And then some of these graphics include termination, which is termination in a positive way. That's when maintenance has occurred for so long, the maintenance of the new behaviors occurred for so long that you're not even in the cycle anymore. You don't need to worry about the different steps. Okay. So when I say down there at the bottom, quit trying, that means you don't have to try anymore because it's so automatic. Maintenance is entrenched. Let's see. So one of the things that you can do is help people to move along those stages of change. Okay, I've already talked a little bit, I've alluded to this. If they're in the pre-contemplation phase, you can provide some information, or if you're trying to affect change at a population level or a community level, some type of public health education campaign. Okay, so providing some information, maybe telling a story about somebody who decided that a change was important and how they were able to achieve it. Action phase. You can affirm their efforts. And when I go through motivational interviewing, I will talk about motivational interviewing techniques to get to help people move along the phases of change. Okay. There's things like scaling. Oh, well, for pre-contemplation, what do you think would happen if you pre-contemplation and contemplation? What do you think what do you think your life would be like in 5 years if you did or didn't make this change? Let's see. What are some reasons that you would or wouldn't want to make a change? And I have some good videos that I will put up of somebody actually conducting some motivational interviewing to move someone along these stages of change. Let's see. So, does a person, is are you and your client unsuccessful if they don't take action on making change. Some people would say, helping your client move forward one or two stages is success. But if they don't move forward, is that a failure? No, because sometimes you're laying the groundwork for success in the future. Okay. Um, I know people who, make attempt after attempt after attempt, um, and they don't get very far, and then the planets are aligned, and they make a change, and become entrenched in that positive change, and it becomes a permanent change. So moving forward, not moving forward, I know it's frustrating. And if you think it's frustrating for the dietitians, it's way more frustrating for the client. But you're laying the groundwork. Sometimes, when they're in while they're not making an action change, they're changing their mindset, and you're supporting them in that change of mindset that will get them to that place of change. So, a lot of times you hear about, oh, small changes are the most lasting, just, one change at a time. I do know people who have done a 180. My brother, um, his cue to action was his 59th birthday, and he thought, oh man, I'm going to have a heart attack if I don't make some changes. So he joined a commercial weight loss program, and it was not, let's set, small goals. It was, this is what you do for exercise, and this is what you do for your diet. It was a program where they provided, let's see, breakfast and lunch and snacks, and he was responsible for dinner, and it was very strict. And then they weaned him over time off of the meals that they provided, and he never deviated from it. Never deviated from it. And it is now 5 years later, and he lost 175 pounds. He's kept it off, and he did a 180 to the point where I was staying with him, and he had to leave to run an errand, and his golden retriever couldn't get his golden retriever to play with me. The golden retriever just was sad, laying right in front of the door, waiting for him to get back. So I went into my brother's cabinet, his pantry, to look for dog treats, and there weren't even any dog treats, much less treats for him. So, boy, he made a major change, and it was kind of like he had that cue to action. He decided to do it, and he did it. There's nothing small about it. But I will say, for most people I know, it's a process. So now we're at the cognitive behavior theory. I like this quote: "Don't believe everything you think. Thoughts are just that, thoughts," because a lot of people have thoughts that don't serve them well. So the cognitive behavior theory contends that thoughts and feelings influence action. So a lot of people have what we call cognitive refers to mind, cognitive distortions. And we'll go over these cognitive distortions like, oh, this is just too hard. Oh, I can't do it. I have to be perfect, black and white thinking. I have to be perfect or not even do it. Oh, I blew my diet. And since I blew it, I'm a failure. So I may as well give up. So, you know, uh, changing those thoughts, and sometimes it's a feeling that brings up the thought that's not, that doesn't serve the person well. With cognitive behavior theory, there are ways that we help people reframe or think differently in a way that serves them better. The ecological model, okay, one of the criticisms of all of these different individual theories is that um, they don't look at the context that a person lives within. The sociocultural, the physical environment, those influence behavior. So again, these theories don't work in a vacuum, and the ecological model emphasizes that. Okay. So intervention occurs on multiple levels if it's to be effective. Okay. So we have the individual level, and that has to do with the individual's knowledge, their attitudes towards health and themselves, um, their their physiology, their genetics, their individual experiences, okay, um, their individual habits. But beyond that, there's an interpersonal or social context. Okay. The person doesn't live in isolation. Oftentimes you live within a family or a social network that can be that can influence your behaviors. The next level is organizational. Okay. Could be your work environment. Okay. Is your work environment conducive to healthy behaviors? Is it a work culture where you work all the time? Stress-orama, working way too many hours for you to have time for self-care. Could be a school environment. Okay. Does our school environment, when you're on campus, does it support healthy eating behaviors? Is there easy, affordable access to healthy eating options nearby? Okay. It changed from when I was here before. I used to go get a 6-inch turkey sub across the street, across Colfax. Now I think though there definitely isn't that strip mall anymore. It's probably a mega complex. I'll have to take a look. Um, you know, there are some healthy options at Tivoli, but it's not as convenient. And there aren't as many options, you know, on campus. So anyway, think about that. For kids, think about school lunch. Um, but think about the organizations that people exist in. The community level, okay? The built environment. We are lucky in Denver. There are more parks. We have easier access to physical activity, and it's a community culture that values physical activity. When I moved back to Texas in 2013, Dr. Dormer called me to catch up, and she goes, "What do people do in Texas?" Because here, we get together to go for walks. When we get together, sometimes we get together to go. Well, I don't go skiing because, I'm not good at that. But people's lives are revolved kind of around physical activity. In fact, sometimes their identities are their physical activities. So she asked, "What do you do in Texas?" I'm like, "Well, we go out to eat together." And it's true. That's one of the reasons that, Colorado is leaner than a lot of states, although the environment has changed. In Texas, it's so hot. People aren't outside very much. Well, the environment's changing in Colorado too. So, geez, when I left, it was just when we hit 20% of the population with a BMI of 20 or over. And now it's well over that. And we're no longer the leanest state in the nation. But, there are public planning efforts to make communities more walkable with easier access to healthy food. Think about the people who live in food desert communities. Okay. Um, and then there are policies, laws. Um, think about the policies that are, changing. Think about, the changes that may be occurring to Medicaid. Um, Well, I didn't mention this in the community, but I lived in a medical desert where I didn't have where we didn't have easy access to health care at all. If you had a health problem, then you drove 2.5 hours away to Los Angeles. We just didn't have physicians in San Luis Obispo that you could get easily into. But anyway, as far as policies, laws, I include insurance, although insurance could be considered part of work. But I think of policies related to medication access or SNAP that could be changing, WIC, VA. Okay. So these are all areas that need to be addressed. In fact, a long, long, long time ago, I saw a speaker at the Academy meeting that first addressed this and said, look, this, obesity epidemic is not going to, we're not going to make any progress unless we address all of these different levels. Okay, lastly, the social determinants of health. Um, um, you know, we need to not, and this is where I see that these usually physicians who have these best-selling diet books. There's one, his weight loss book is The Vegan Diet. Which, yeah, whole food vegan diet, if people follow that, that is a lean population. And if a person can switch to a whole food vegan diet, they typically do lose weight. Um, so why don't people just do that? And then there's the other ones that are intermittent fasting or keto. They have their best sellers. So just do this, right? Well, it's because it's not possible for everyone. And this is why I had to get off of that um, social media threads because there are all these health coaches or lifestyle coaches who were like, it's just calories in, calories out, and expressing contempt for their clients who weren't doing what they were saying. It's just lifestyle. Well, okay, yeah, it is lifestyle, but it may be that a person doesn't have access to healthy foods or they can't afford healthy foods, or that, you know, um, they're, they don't have the um, education um, that's required to make change, or they live in a community or social environment that doesn't support change. Do you know what it's like to make a change when people around you don't support that or it's not the social norm? Okay. If you watched let's see, The Biggest Loser, there's an episode where Jillian, the trainer, was working with somebody who lived in a reservation. And one of the cultural foods is fry bread. And she expressed her disgust at eating bread that was fried and started picking up their fry bread and throwing it in the garbage. And oh my goodness, she did end up apologizing for that because you don't do that. So anyway, the healthcare environment that a person lives in, neighborhood built environment. So you have to think of all of these issues and address people. I will tell you, in San Luis Obispo, although you couldn't get in to see a doctor, one of the things that was really interesting is that they had a city ordinance against drive-throughs. There were no drive-through Starbucks. There are no drive-through fast food restaurants. And so I asked the students, okay, when you moved from wherever you came from to come to school here, did your did you start drinking more or less Starbucks? Less. Did your fast food, did you go to In-N-Out Burger more often or less often? Less often. Okay. So that was a part of their environment that really affected their food behavior. Okay. They did not eat as much fast food because there were no drive-throughs. Okay, so here's an example, and I got this from Dr. Dormer. She does teach a body image class. Um, and she used this as an illustration of the different health belief or the different behavior theories addressing um, body image. So, okay, so for the health belief model, what body image beliefs do you have that help and hinder you? Okay. The social cognitive theory, who are your who are your body image role models that help or hinder you? Cognitive behavior theory. What are your body image mindsets and self-talk that we might be able to reframe to improve your body image? Trans-theoretical model. What stage of change are you in for being prepared to improve your body image? So, our three takeaways: knowledge doesn't always translate to behavior change, and behavior change is more complex than many people realize. Behavior change theories provide insight into approaches the nutrition counselor can take to support change, but the theories don't work in isolation. You can't just be, for example, a health beliefs model dietitian. You need to apply aspects of these different um, um, theories and use the best parts of them in conglomeration. And we'll talk about how you can use them with motivational interviewing and as well as cognitive behavior theory. So this last slide is and I think I put this link in Canvas as well. It this pro Yeah, I have because it applies the behavior change theories in a community context, which is really interesting, and it has really good explanations of the different theories as well as if you don't have one of the textbooks as a backup.